but you're still Gary. Hey, what's going on, guys? We are live for Financial Fitness Friday. One of these days, I'm just going to start rolling from as soon as me and Dave can get on here, and you guys can be privy to some of the
shenanigans
talk before the show. It's quite amusing. So today, we are going to go over tips to improve your personal credit and your business credit. Now, there's a big reason I'm going through this, okay? And the reason I chose to do this now, as opposed to wait, because I do think we're coming upon really turbulent times, all right? Which means having access to cash whenever you need it is crucial. Why? Well, things aren't going to go smooth, right? We're going to see some amazing amount of volatility in the markets, in business. And so one of the things you want to do is have good credit in case you have to access cash. And then let's say everything goes smooth, you navigate through and there's no hiccups. Well, there's going to be a lot of opportunities, right? Like we're seeing the stock market go down. We're seeing digital assets go down. We're starting to see real estate go down, right? So that means if you have access to cash or credit, you can take advantage of some really good opportunities to build generational wealth. So with that being said, let's get into this and let's go into a couple ways you can improve personal credit. I'm going to give you two off the bat, and then Dave take over from there. And then if we have time, we'll touch on business credit too. So the first thing is, and this is going to sound really obvious, monitor it. Okay. I'm serious. You guys should at least be checking your credit once a week. All right. And it's super easy. Just go on Credit Karma or anything else and just look for changes, right? If anything's going up or down, that's really what you're trying to track. Credit Karma isn't accurate. All right. Then the second thing is, I see a lot of people, and if this is you, right? If you feel like you are constantly paying down or paying off credit cards and you have a low 600 score or mid 600 score, but you're paying all your bills on time and you're like, why isn't my credit going up? It's because your utilization. So I would challenge you to do one thing. Anytime you see or log into your credit card account, you're going to see two different dates. One is a due date, one is a statement date. Okay, the due date is when the payment's due. The statement date is when your card reports. So if you're like me and you set up auto pay, what I would suggest doing is set your auto pay to pay the credit card down or pay the credit card off on the statement date or a day before the statement date for the statement balance. Why would you do this? Well, if you're like me and you pay them off at the end of every month, okay, in full, if I don't pay them off by the statement date, whatever is on the balance on the statement date is what gets reported. So even if I'm paying it off, it might still report that I have 20, 30, 40% utilization, depending on which card. So make sure that you're paying it off by the statement date. Dave, what else you got?
Yeah, man, those are all really solid tips. One of the things that I tell people all the time, control the two main things that you can control. 4 out of the 5 that make up a FICO score you can control, but the two main things, you touched on it a little bit, credit utilization, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand it's 30%, whether that's any revolving trade line, whether that's credit cards or if it's a line of credit. Make sure you pay that down as much as you can. The statement date and due date thing is very big. I wouldn't if you're a habitual pay in full person every single month, I wouldn't worry about that paying before the statement date closes. Now, if you're going for lending or if you're going for money, then yeah, absolutely. Why? Because you want to zero that out. You're going to get max points or keep it under 10%. For every dollar that you borrow on a revolving trade line, you're using utilization. Therefore, your score is going to go down. And when people understand that you control based on those habits, score goes up, score goes down. That's one thing you can control. That's the easiest one to control. Second one is pay your shit on time. I cannot stress that enough. Pay it on time. It's the worst thing in the world that can happen to you in terms of credit. Its point value is 192.5 points. even if you have an 800 plus credit score and you're late and say it drops you something ridiculous like 130 points, but your score says you're still lendable, you're still in the 700s, right? A lender's not going to say you're lendable. Okay. Usually it could be a year. Sometimes you might get lucky. It'd be 6 months. Even on the worst end, depending on other factors, it could be 18 months. And there's an entitlement issue with that for whatever reason there is. It's like, look, pay your stuff on time. Well, I started paying it on time again. Well, listen, if you came onto the street corner, I don't know you, you don't know me, you asked me to borrow, I don't know, 300,000 bucks. I'm probably going to look at you funny because I don't know you, but you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars every single month for the next 15 years. And I'm going to look at you and be like, first thing I'm going to ask is, can I guarantee or depend on you paying me every single month on time? Yeah, I can. Well, how do I know that? Well, if I look at a report in your history, well, this says otherwise. You had a 30-day late here 3 months ago. You had a 30 and a 60-day late here 9 months ago. I'm not going to take that risk. And it's always funny when you explain it that way to somebody, that's when the light bulb goes off. It's like, oh, you're not entitled to borrow money. And I think a lot of people forget that. So those two big ones are a really big one. One thing I want to just throw out here for awareness, because I've gotten probably 10 calls just this week alone on it. Student loans, guys. If you have them, check them because they're coming due. They've been due since the beginning of the year. They're not going to report 30 days. Once you quote unquote start pissing the federal government off, they're just going to report it as a 90-day late. We're coming up on 90 days already in the beginning of the year. Check them, get them caught up ASAP, give them a call, see if you can get that forgiven, because that's going to slow you down too.
Wait, can I just stop you there? Guys, this is something, if you own a business, a lot of people don't know this. All right. If you default on any government debt, you can't qualify for an SBA loan. Okay. Guess what counts? Some of these student loans do count as government debt, and they still count as government debt, even if you co-sign for your kid. So if your kid ain't paying it and being a shithead, okay, and it goes on your report, that could hurt you getting an SBA loan, okay, or prevent you from getting an SBA loan.
I got that phone call too, man.
What'd you say?
I got that phone call too, man. Hey, man,
yeah.
I'm for my kid. I make XYZ amount of dollars a year, and I can't go. I'm due for a brand new lease, and my credit sucks now. And I'm like,
people don't realize that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, Dave. Keep going. You're cooking.
Yeah, thanks, man. Look, check that. That's super important. There's not a lot of people talking about it. There's very few of us in the space that are. Don't get, first things first, get it caught up, get current on it, right? Like, they're pretty forgiving. They're not going to take a lot. This is going to be a big problem. I can see down the road because it's really disorganized. They're not really sending too much.
Dude, I looked at my wife's. Like, they'll give you multiple different loans, all different rates, and change the payment frequency, the cadence, the amount all the time. It doesn't make any rhyme or reason. Well, and I think that's some of the most toxic debt that you can have, based on how this works.
Yeah, there's no correspondence either, right? Like, they'll say they send something out. There's really no emails, but just check it. I see a class action lawsuit happening with this at some point anyway. Like, let's be honest, you're not going to trash half the country because of bad communication, a bad policy to even begin with pushing it off for the last 3 years. And now all of a sudden come due because of something you guys created, right? Mm-hmm. You guys put a stop to this. And now you're going to hammer the population right now. Well, gee, let's not go down the conspiracy ladder, but what an interesting time to do that.
Yeah. So talk to me. What other things can they do to improve their credit?
Yeah. Pay down debt. Obviously check student loans, pay stuff on time. One thing I will say this, and when I explain it, it makes sense. If you can hold on to, if you want to keep your credit solid, if there's certain things you can hold on to longer, and what I mean by that is, if you have an installment loan and if you're paying more on principal, if you have an auto loan and you owe a couple $1,000s, hold on to that stuff as long as possible. If you don't need a new car, great. Hold on to this one longer. If everything goes the way they go, they're probably going to get cheaper down the road anyway. Yes. The reason being is, and I have people that are going for home loans that make this mistake when they're not qualified all the time. And the reason being is, you're still keeping a solid credit profile. You think about this. these factors on a FICO score. Okay, number one, payment history, utilization doesn't count, so take that one out the door. But number two is the type of loan. So now you have an installment loan. If you already have a mortgage, great. That's number two. You have revolving lines. That's number three. It's three pieces of credit, right? And then number four, what's that?
What were you saying about four?
Number four is history, right? The age, the length of history. If you have a 5-year auto loan, that's pretty much where they call an older account, right?
The girth of the history matters. Now, one other thing, guys. While Dave is getting all giddy about girth, here's the thing. Oh, I forgot where I was going. I screwed myself here. Hold on. I totally listen. I deserve all that for throwing you off intentionally, right? But if you guys have a lot of credit card debt, this is where I was going. Okay, and one of the tips I've always given, and I do this for Dave all the time, is one, you have compounding interest. Two, it's when you are not paying down the cards or paying off the cards, they can get away from you, right? So one of the suggestions I always make to people, and I use the same program for startup financing, is if you need to consolidate credit cards, we can help you do that with a term loan. All a term loan is, it's a personal loan. It's an installment loan that sits on there like a vehicle, right? And basically, it's going to go off your provable income and your credit. And if you have decent credit, you can take that and instead of fighting the credit cards each and every month, consolidate them into one payment, pay it over 3 to 5 years with a simple interest rate. You'll lower your payment and you won't be compounding interest anymore, right? And you can pay that off and pay the principal off at any time. I've taken them myself. They work great. They take 2 to 7 days to get set up. So if that's something you guys, if you're sitting here saying, hey, my credit's challenged because of this, well, there's your solution, right? And like I said, we could take care of you in 2 seconds. You could even apply it without even talking to me, just going through some of the links on my profile.
And I'll go back to what I was talking about, because here's an actual good strategy with that as well, without paying stuff off. So you have installment loans, right? Hold on to them a little bit. If you have credit card debt, and if it is starting to push you a little bit in terms of paying money out, hold on to that auto loan, because you're going to keep your score there. Because again, going back to the factors, what happens as soon as you pay that loan off? You lost all that payment history. Hopefully it was all on time. Number two, you lost that it was an installment loan. And then number three, the most important, that age, that length of history. So you're getting rid of that. I can't tell you how many times, especially home buyers, when they're coming in, they start wanting to pay stuff off. They pay it off, and then your score drops, okay? Unless you're replacing it with a new auto loan. But that usually takes 60 days to reflect anyway. Once it's closed and paid off, that's like practically instant, okay?
Yep.
So don't pay it off. And what Jonathan's talking about, get your credit score up. Obviously, you have provable income, but what are you talking, like 650, somewhere around there at least?
Yeah, 650 unless you got a medical license, then they don't really care. Then you could be like 600. But I do have somebody new on my department team that can handle like lower 600 credit scores that we're testing out right now. So
yeah,
so
here's what I would suggest, right? If you do want to pay the car off, right? Get all that revolving credit card debt rolled over first. Why? Obviously the interest, obviously the payment duration, right? Is the two things. But also what you're doing is the moment you get that off the revolving side, 30% that I talked about, your credit score is going to shoot up. It's going to blossom up. Then pay the car off. Then get rid of it. So like you're not killing your credit score. There's always a strategy in the math on how to do these things. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with, trust me when I tell you on this, because of where things are going. If you're getting good credit card offers in the mail, pre-approvals right now, just take them. Even if you don't need them, take them. Yeah. Okay? Take them. Don't even use them once a year. Pay it off in full just to have it. What's the old gun saying, right? It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Right? Same thing in credit.
I love it. All right, guys. That was for us anyway. That was a full length and girth episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too rough.
Pre-show.
Yeah. Catch you guys on Mindset Monday. Appreciate you for tuning in. Take care.
Be great, y'all.